Nah. Bam, we're live, dude. This is cool as shit. What a nice surprise.
Yes, it was impromptu at the very least.
Where are you at?
Turku, Finland.
Where?
Turku, Finland.
Where in Finland is that? How far north is that? Is that close to Helsinki?
It's 2 hours straight west of Helsinki. It's on the ocean or the sea. I guess it's the sea that's up there.
And what are you doing out there? Did you even go home after the games, or you went straight there?
I went home for 4 days or 5 days.
Okay, I see it.
Turku, yeah, there it is, right on the Baltic Sea.
It looks like it's what is it? Second, third biggest city in Finland?
It used to be the capital until 1812 when the Russians decided to move it to Helsinki.
No shit, that's true?
I found that out today.
Someone told you, or you were doing a little wiki?
Someone told me, and then I asked someone else a trivia question, someone who was from Turku. I asked them if they knew what year that it no longer was the capital, and nobody knew, so we looked it up.
I remember when I visited Nico there, that's when I noticed how close St. Petersburg was, Russia. And I said, "Oh, you guys do a lot of vacationing over in Russia?" And he looked at me like I was crazy, like, "No."
Oh, Mikko.
Yeah, Mikko Salo. So, and I was at that point, I was like, okay, the Finns and the Russians, they don't do much.
Well, if you zoom out a little bit, I mean, it's a massive border between Finland and Russia. It goes all the way up north there.
Yeah.
Norway sneaks across the top part, so Finland doesn't go all the way up to the Norwegian Sea or the Barents Sea. But yeah, most of that border is with Russia, and they, I'm sure, have quite an extensive.
Hey, that's crazy that Finland allowed. It's crazy that Sweden didn't get some of this, and it's crazy that Finland allows this. Norway should just give that shit back to them.
I know they have a massive western coast, and Finland and Sweden have none of it.
They probably allow them some pretty easy travel through here, I'm guessing.
I mean, from Nurgam to Varengerboth right there, it can't be very far at all.
And dude, look, I bet you this is just desolate, huh? Like no one even lives up here.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, first of all, there's all those cities, but the northern part of Finland is called Lapland.
Uh-huh.
And there's athletes competing here that are from the northern part of Finland.
Oh, crazy. Is it just Finnish people at this comp?
There are 3 athletes who are not from Finland, 1 male from Estonia, 1 female from Germany. She was also at semifinals, and 1 Israeli that was also at semifinals, but in Asia on the women's side.
So it's not exclusive just to Finnish people.
Correct, and I think that they have ambitions of becoming a little bit more international as a competition, which is one of the reasons that they brought me over here.
Meaning what? They kind of bring in some more high-profile commentators and whatnot?
Just people from outside of Finland. And I was speaking with one of the organizers today, and they mentioned that they think I do a kind of a good job of, not just focusing on the really mainstream athletes or competitions, but to try to, bring some attention to the more global or diverse community of CrossFit. And I've also been pretty open this year about the fact that I want to do that even more and more. And then Hanu, who I think I've spoken to you about before, he started running competitions here in Finland as early as 2010. And although he's not the organizer of this competition, he is working here, and pretty much everyone who's working here knows him or has worked with him in the past. And so he kind of vouched for me and said, let me see if Brian would be willing to come over. And they seem to be excited about that.
And has the first day of competition occurred?
Yeah, so today was day number 1 for the elite division, and there's only 2 days for the RX division. There are only elite and RX divisions here. They only had 1 event today. It's actually pretty cool. It's 3-day competition. They have 3 different sites over those 3 days that they'll compete at. It's programmed by Joona Koski and has been for, I think, all 5 years that it has existed.
So he's there.
Yeah, he's here. Yeah, and his girlfriend Amelia, who's a former games athlete, is competing in the women's division. She's probably the favorite to win it.
So he's programming. Is Mikko there by any chance?
I was told that he wasn't here today, but I think he has a decent number of athletes that are competing in the RX division. So it seems likely that he'll be around tomorrow or the next day.
And how many athletes in total?
I think the elite divisions have had 20 each, male and female, and the RX divisions I think have twice that many, maybe 40.
Wow, so 120 athletes. So it's busy.
Yeah.
It's big.
This is the premier elite competition in Finland for the year, and it has been for the last 5 years. There was like as with most parts of the world, there was a little bit of a gap in terms of competitions being available. But prior to that was the Winter War, was the primary one. That's the one that Hanu ran, and now this one's kind of taken up the mantle as being the top competition in Finland for Finnish athletes. But they're starting, like I said, to try to reach outside. Last year, Adrian Moonveiler was the winner here.
Adrian Moonveiler is someone I would have never heard of if it wasn't for you and people like that. It's funny, I was going to crack a joke earlier about there's people like Moonveiler, Hepalainen, Mikkel.
He's here. His girlfriend's competing.
Who?
Hepalainen. He's not competing, but his girlfriend is, yeah.
Wow. And he's there after the games too. That's crazy. I wouldn't have heard of him. Uldis Ubanex. There's all these people, the Sahar Kais of the world, the Maa Anganes. I mean, not that they're
Ty Jenkins.
Who's that? Kayike Cerveni? Who's who?
No,
who's,
Ty Jenkins.
Yes. Crazy. Hey, dude. Totally off subject here. Well, let's spend 2 minutes here. How about that kids comp? The dudes. I didn't watch any of the girls, but the dudes are savages.
The teenage boys at the games are, the 16, 17-year-old division is always, I mean, they're intimidating to me, like physically. Their physiques are crazy at 16 and 17 years old. And the 14 and 15-year-olds are super talented. But yeah, by the time some of those guys are 16, 17, like they're massive.
And Ty talks.
He's a pretty, verbal. I would say he's very impressive young man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I won't say too much about him because I know you got a lot of stuff on him that you're going to share eventually.
Yeah. What Brian's referring to is we were at the CrossFit Games, and there were times when literally there were 15 or 20 times where Brian and I would just pass just very quickly, fist bump, hug, whatever, and he would be like, blah, blah, blah. And one of the blah, blah, blahs he gave me was this Ty Jenkins over there, 4 straight wins or something. And I just immediately, I think I was going into North Park, I flipped to you, and I went straight to the ice bath where he was at or where he was sitting. And, of course, the story unfolded huge. He has a famous coach who was the fittest nurse in the world at one point, Jessica Griffith. Then she was, it was great. And I ended up, in the behind the scenes, you'll see he's one of the minor characters that throughout the weekend I talked to. And that was just from Brian being like, dude, that guy. And it was cool. Do you think, before we get back to Finland, do you think any of these boys are going to make the leap the way we saw Mal, Olivia Kerstetter, Emma Lawson, Emma Carey make the leap? Is a boy ready to do that?
I'm so impressed with you recalling all 4 of those women.
It was close. I was thinking about maybe throwing 1 or 2 more in there. I was like, easy, be happy with 4, Sevy.
Not in 1 year. I still don't think that there's really much opportunity for a male who's 17 or 18 years old to make it for 2 reasons. One is just the overall depth of field, and 2 is the just development pattern of men taking a little bit longer than women, age-wise.
I see somewhere, I see Dick Butters. There he is. Dick Butter. Hi, Brian. Did you see who happened to take 21st in Heat 1? How did you do? What's he referencing?
Oh, hold on.
All right.
I thought he was talking about a competition, and he kind of was. He's talking about this Heat 1. And I'm guessing that Dick Butter might have gotten 21st. I don't know, either that or Trish.
Hey, for everyone who doesn't know, Heat 1, the shirt that Brian Finn was just holding up, is the fantasy CrossFit fitness app developed by Tyler Watkins, just unleashed this year. A bunch of us, Brian and a bunch of other people have gotten behind it, quickly skyrocketed over 3,000 people playing the game. They had a hugely successful first run at the CrossFit Games. What's Heat 1's next event?
I think at Rogue. I talked to Tyler about the chance of doing Madrid. I'm not sure what his decision was on that, but I think Rogue and Wadapalooza are guarantees, and like Madrid and Dubai are maybes.
you can go to the Apple Store or to the Google Store and download the app. It's HEAT1. If you have any questions, I can't promise that they'll get back to you, but you can. I think you know Brian's Instagram, and then the guy who developed the app. His name is it's Tyler Watkins, but it's Tex TEXXS or something.
Yeah,
That's
maybe
his.
2 X's and 2 S's, but you can also, go to the Heat One app and I think they'll probably respond there. The guy that he's working with, Adam, he's quite good and very on top of it.
How long are you in Finland?
1 week.
Okay.
It was pretty late planning, and the logistics were, had to try to figure them out, and it was $600 less to fly Tuesday to Tuesday than any other combination of days. So I asked if I could stay a couple extra days, and they said yes. And so I'll have 2 days on the back end, Sunday and Monday, with no competition, and we're going to go around and see some different parts of Finland, play some disc golf courses here, check
There's
out
disc golf
Helsinki.
in Finland.
I
Oh
played
yeah,
this morning. It's on my Instagram.
right. And there were some great guys on that we used to watch on the disc golf show.
Yeah, before I canceled it and shattered my dreams.
I apologize, but it took me 1,000
Hey,
times of trying to
I'm
quit smoking
going.
before I quit smoking. Maybe we'll just try again.
I'm going to the United States Disc Golf Championship with my brother this year.
Oh, when's that?
It's the weekend after I get back from being gone for 7 straight weeks.
October 9th.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. The reason why I'm speaking extra fast is I know it's very late there. I know at some point Brian's going to turn into a pumpkin. I do want to talk more about Finland, but I want to get a little more perspective for people. So you're in Finland. Where do you go from there?
Utah for the Iron Games.
To where? Sorry, you broke up.
Utah for the
Okay.
Iron Game.
Iron Games? Is that a Rogue thing?
No, the Iron
Okay.
Games existed before Rogue Invitational, or the Iron Game, as they called it. Rogue did. It's a competition that's run by 2 guys out in Utah. Both of the guys are actually friends with the Buttery Bros. I think one of them went to college and might have played with Marston, and one of them might have even grown up with Heber. Those 2 guys and Tommy have competed there. Dallin Pepper and James Sprague have competed there, and they actually reached out to me and said that it's a very well-run competition when they found out I was going. And I'd already heard that. That's reasons that I'm going out there.
Okay. And then after Utah,
Pit Team Throwdown,
what state is that in?
Michigan.
Okay. And that's a team event.
Teenage.
Oh, teenage. Okay.
I'm excited for that this year because of the collegiate division. They've introduced a division. It's for 18 to 22-year-olds. You don't have to qualify for it. You can just sign up. And the idea behind it is that there's not a organized space for people to compete as if it was a college sport or even a college club, CrossFit club or whatever. But in most other disciplines there are. And as you already mentioned on this show, it's very difficult, especially for the men, but even for a lot of the women, to actually make it in the elite division, no matter how good they were as teenagers, when they're 18, 19, 20 years old. And that's basically true in every sport. For every LeBron James that can come out of high school and immediately have an impact in the NBA, there's 100 guys that need 1 to 4 years of college to develop before they have a chance to have an NBA career. And that's, I think, has shown to be true for CrossFit as well. But unlike any other sport or most other sports, there's no developmental leagues. You get, once you graduate the teenage division, there's nothing for those next 4 years if you can't make it. And as we've seen over and over and over again with some of the best in the teenage world, they just, it's frustrating to try to stick with it for the entirety of that time until you make it. Dallin Pepper and Tudor Magda are the youngest guys to do it at 20. And that's just 2 guys,
How many participants will the teenage event have, this Pit Teen event? And will any of the games athletes go? Or too soon? They're still recovering.
I have the roster. I'm not sure how many. There's quite a few. They have a JV division, which is for it's like first timers. And there's a decent amount of participation there. They have a varsity division, and then they have this collegiate division. I know they capped the collegiate division, I think, at 20 each, but the other divisions are much bigger than that. There's well over 100 kids competing.
Okay, so the event's popping.
Yeah, I mean, they came onto the scene when COVID happened, and the CrossFit Games canceled all the divisions except for the elite individuals, which was, basically out of necessity, or, I mean, it was it would have been very logistically challenging to do that. And these guys they're like, you know what, we want to provide something for the kids. And they did that. Mallory O'Brien was the champion there in the women's division that year. I can't remember who won for the boys, and they've kept it going since then. And I think that while there are other good competitions for teenagers, that these guys are the best in terms of their passion for delivering a great weekend for the kids, to the extent that they even have like opportunities for both the kids and the parents of these kids. Because having kids, like if you have someone who's highly competitive in something, it's a huge commitment for the parents too. And it can be really, really difficult to manage the emotional, physical toll that this sport in particular can take. So they have some workshops and they have some like activities outside of the competition during that weekend that are meant to foster a community of peers, both parents and kids, that can help kind of weather some of those storms.
Megan East, just a small hello to say thanks for being great. Audrey, who gives a fuck about CrossFit? We want Brian's friend part 2. Fair enough. I hope we don't mind. I paraphrased that. Kenneth DeLapp, the Mormon Network. It's real. Exactly. What I was thinking. Audrey, Heidi, I want to come on you. That's weird. Okay. I
did a live show on Be Friendly last week, and someone kicked, like they blocked Audrey.
No shit. One of your wrenches did? She said, "I love you."
I don't have any wrenches. I don't have any wrenches.
How can you block Audrey? She's like the most loving, giving person ever.
I think it was a genuine mistake. I think Chad Mueller did it on accident, but she does skirt the lines a little bit, so it just made it that much more fun.
I had to wear a rain jacket around her. She kissed me so many times at the games.
Yeah, she assaulted me too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Assault away. It was my favorite part of the games. Okay, so let's go back. Finland, Utah, pit team. What's next? Pit team.
Spain. Madrid Championship.
That's the big one. That's the one. Sorry, going back in. Have any of these 3 you've mentioned so far CrossFit HQ sanctioned, or does CrossFit even do that anymore?
The competition is a CrossFit licensed event. At the athlete briefing today, they actually were using specific rules for movement standards and the appeal process from the CrossFit Games rulebook.
Okay.
I believe the pit team throwdown is. I have a document that has all this information for my travel schedule, whatever. But I think pit team throwdown is, and I'm not sure. I don't know about the other ones. I don't want to say either way.
Brian, you need to come on the show more. You've gotten soft. You used to be like so ready for just the whole barrage of questions I would ask you. How many hairs are on your head? You knew every, and now 2 have slipped through the cracks.
2? Oh, shit.
Only 2. First live show I've caught in a while. Killing it, fellas. Good to see Brian back here. Allegra R. Hi. Okay. Spain, Madrid. That event has always flirted with making it into what we call sort of God, I don't want to insult anyone. Let's call it the top tier, meaning the CrossFit Games, Rogue, Wadapalooza, and wasn't there? What's the other one?
Dubai is usually
Dubai. Thank you. Spain has always kind of flirted with coming in there. Are they in? Are they out? Where do they sit now?
So a few months ago, I released something on my website called the competition framework, where I kind of tiered events based on the athletes that participate there. So the thing about those events that you listed is that they have like more than half of the field is games athletes. I would say that's what kind of qualifies it as separating from the rest of the competition. Madrid's elite division is a lot bigger in terms of the total number of participants in the elite men's and women's field than those other events. And like last year, I believe they had 80 something males in their elite division. And obviously those aren't all games athletes. So I would say it's lacking the number. It does have high quality games athletes. And I'm talking like Lazar Jukic and Jona Koski, who are finishing top 10 at the games and turning around and competing there 5 or 6 weeks later. They have guys that didn't make the games this year, like Luka Jukic, Yorgos Karavas, Alex Katoulis. They have Wilda Supanex, who's in the top 20 of the games this year. So they have some high caliber athletes, but the field is diluted by the size. So it's just, I would say it's like the next step below.
Is that an article you were referencing, or is it a drop down tab, or can I still find that? Is it?
Yeah, you probably have to search for it in the top right, I think. I don't know where I find it.
Otherwise. Hey, that might be. Has anyone ever ranked events?
Well, I tiered the events based on who they cater to. I didn't rank them in terms of like the quality, though.
God, your website keeps growing and growing and growing. This is awesome.
Well,
You're a busy man. Hey, are you what do you think about Proven not did Proven even make it to the podium?
yeah, they were second.
What do you think how bad did Invictus whoop them by?
By the amount of running that was programmed at the games.
Oh, that is that a jab?
There was a lot of running on the team side relative to the number of competitions, and Invictus was much better on those specifically the running portions of those tests than Proven, and I think that, and the biking test as well, and in just the biking and running tests combined, I think was basically the margin of difference that they won by.
Wow.
When it came to the CrossFit workouts, they were like, that didn't have those massive monostructural components. It was pretty even. Even Proven might have been a little better.
Do you think that the wrong champion was chosen for teams?
No.
Okay. Are you disgusted with the team programming?
No.
No. Okay.
I didn't dive into the team program at the games as much as I do the individuals because it's not my directive from the broadcast side of things. I look at it and I look over it, and I did have a chance to watch some of it this year as it was happening. I thought there were some really cool elements. In some ways, I feel like Adrian put more effort into the team side of things this season than the individual. I know that that's not true, but if it kind of felt that way, like they had some kind of cool, like that the 4-person seated row pulling the bob. I thought that was very cool. I thought the earthworm was a nice like hybrid of the old wooden one and the new cloth one, but with the segmented pieces. So I thought there were some nice features of the team competition.
I really enjoyed the worm just yanking members of the team just straight to the ground, slamming them down. That shit was crazy.
You always do.
Yeah. And then I'm like, that's wrong. They shouldn't have that. But man, did I really enjoy that. Okay. Finland, Utah, Pitt Teen, Spain, Madrid. So we were talking about how is Spain going to have high level athletes this year? Do we know yet?
Yeah. I mean, I just listed off several on the male side. On the female side, I've heard some rumors of some that may join late, but as of now, I would say they actually just put their full rosters out on their Instagram today, and I think Jacqueline Dahlstrom, Annika Greer were towards the top of that list, if I remember correctly. But I think that it's one of those competitions, especially with its proximity to the games, where if there are games athletes that are interested in going, they might hold some spots for them, because like I spoke to Henrik Kapalainen today, and he's like, man, they were doing this pretty cool workout on a velodrome, and he's like, I kind of want to do the workout, but I also don't know how well recovered I am. So there it is, yeah. So Greer, Dahlstrom, Campos, Helgadottir being the headliners, obviously they're the biggest text, but I think there may be a couple additions late. We'll see.
Hannah Carlson. Andrea Solberg. Where did I see? I mean, there's was Hannah Carlson at Zelos? No, where was she?
Dubai.
Dubai. Okay.
There's a bunch of semifinal athletes here.
Oh shit! Travis Mayer's getting back in the mix.
Yes, I spoke to him at the games, and he had mentioned he was going to go to Madrid, and that he's obviously it was a lot of these athletes that didn't make the games this year, Annika, Jacqueline, Travis, they were in Madison, and it was interesting talking to them about how much they wanted to be out there, but also that they'd kind of just like rationalize with themselves, okay, I'm not competing and I am going to be there, and to try to like make the most of the week anyway. And then in part that was like reinvigorating for them. So Travis, I think, has a pretty big fire lit.
They have Moonweiler, Adrian Moonweiler, and Uldis Upanex in the wrong position. Shouldn't Uldis have his name large and Moonweiler be a little smaller?
Yeah, Uldis should be on the top line in my opinion, unless it's a character count thing. He was in the top 20 at the games, made the final cut, his 4 straight games appearances, and there's several guys that are listed ahead of him on that lineup that don't have as good credentials.
Moritz Fiebig at the top of the comments. Insane lineup. That was a cool dude. I really liked meeting him.
Yeah, he's easy to get along with.
Okay, after Spain, where does Be Friendly Fitness go?
Sweden.
Sweden. What do you do there? Just vacation?
No, I'm going to spend 2 days in Stockholm with Mads Jacobson and visit some of the athletes that I know there in Stockholm. And then I'm going to go to the Halmstad Throwdown, which is a community event. It's not an elite competition that Roger Grios hosts. It's one of the 7 or 8 events that he puts on annually. And since I was going to be in Spain anyway, I asked him when all of his competitions were. There was one the next weekend, so I just decided to head up there to check it out. I'll just kind of help him out a little bit. Maybe I'll do some Instagram stuff or whatever, but nothing formal. And then he invited me to stay and come to Oslo with him after that. So we're going to go over to Oslo just to hang out for a few days before I head back to the States.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you come back to the States, do you come home or do you go to another competition?
I'm going to Power Monkey Camp. And after Power Monkey Camp, I'll go to the Masters Fitness Collective, and then I will go home.
Masters Fitness Collective, is that like the premier Masters competition?
There are
Or is
so
that
similar
Legends?
to the. I guess it depends who you ask.
Okay.
I feel like both of those competitions also emerged at the same time as the Pit Teen Throwdown, more or less, as a opportunity for the Masters divisions to compete in the year that they didn't have the CrossFit Games 2020. I think there's a little bit of a rivalry between the two. I did something last year that it showed like the athletes on the podium from the games, Masters Fitness and Masters Legends, and there was some crossover, in all regards. So some of the athletes do both. Some of them seem to be partial to one or the other. I think they're. I did not go to Masters Legends main event last year, but I went to one of their qualifying events that Chase Ingram was hosting down in Dallas. And, from all the athletes that I've spoken to, I think that, both organizing parties are pretty passionate about it. And it's mostly been a good experience. I think that the community of Masters athletes is generally grateful that they exist and that they have created those opportunities for them.
There was a time, I want to say it was before the 2009 games, where I drove back and forth across the country twice, just visiting CrossFit Games athletes. And then I would go to Europe. And I was basically the only person that I knew of anywhere in the world who was traveling to visit CrossFit athletes and to film with them. And I was always on the road. And that you doing this, I think, puts you in a league where you will begin to, if you don't know more than anyone alive already, you're going to know more than anyone alive very shortly. Like, I think you're going to be like the first dude who has like a legit PhD in fucking CrossFit game shit. This is gonna take your game to a whole nother level. It's kind of like you're gonna see nuances between the cultures and their movements and the gym and the people and their athletes and the physiques, and your brain, you're going to be taking in so many data points that you don't even know you're taking in. You know what I mean? From the nuances to the most gross and obvious superficial things. It's going to be nuts, dude. You must be stoked. Are you stoked, or are you like, is it a daunting task when you look at your schedule?
I'd say both. I think, the going back and forth across the Atlantic 4 times in 7 weeks, that's probably that's probably kind of daunting, but I've traveled a lot, and you know this because you've traveled more than I have for sure. That you just have to have the right mindset when you're traveling. Like, get to the airport early enough that you don't miss your flight. Everything else is out of your control.
Right.
And as long as you just accept it. I mean, look,
how early do you like to get there? How early I like to get there 2 hours early if it says 1 hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The first flight that I had from Charlotte to JFK was delayed 90 minutes, 8 hours before the plane was even going to take off. And I'm about to embark on this 7-week, 10-stop, 5-country, journey. And I'm like, and I have a connection in JFK to fly direct to Helsinki overnight. And I'm like, well, if I miss that flight, I don't know what's going to happen. And I could immediately start panicking. I could start making phone calls to airlines and whatever, but not going to do any good. Show up to there, like, they know that your flight's delayed. And
Paper Street Coffee, I don't know if it's still available, but use code Sevan and get 18% off your subscription. If that doesn't work, use code Sevan and get something. You'll get some sort of discount. They always take care of all the people who listen to the Sevan podcast. Dear Masters Fitness Collective, everyone knows Paper Street Coffee is the official coffee of freedom and fitness and CrossFit, and I chugged that shit. Like I chug. Well, different story. Masters Fitness Collective. I vouch for them. Thank you. Geriatric comps are the best. Okay. And then so then you come back to the States, and is it kind of just is your schedule is that as far as you're looking right now? Just
No,
1,
not at
2,
all.
3,
I've got
4, 5, 6, 7 events, 6 events, one big training camp, and then national championships for frisbee golf.
And then the week after that is Crash Crucible.
Oh shit, that's our homeboy JR's.
Yeah, I had a call with him last night. I think we were going over some stuff for that. I'm gonna do the commentary there as well.
How is that? How you moved to Charlotte from Chicago? You happy with your move?
I haven't been there that much.
Do you even have a place?
I do, and I'm not sure why. Like, I really feel like I should have put my stuff in storage and like stayed at a friend. Like, I probably should have just stayed at my brother's house in Madison. He has an extra bedroom, 2 extra bathrooms, whatever, and just flown out of there. But I didn't know my schedule would be like this when I had to make a decision to move. So, but it does feel silly to pay rent for a place for a month that you're not ever there.
Right. And your overall, have you had much chance to reflect on the games?
Yeah. I know that there were people that wanted to do shows immediately afterwards. I took a kind of 4 or 5 days to just reflect and think about things. And then we did it. We've done 2 shows on Be Friendly Fitness. One was 3 hours long almost, and it was all focused on the athletes. Patrick just went through athlete by athlete and asked me different questions. And then the second one was like a 2023 season recap where I talked more about the good and the bad things from the CrossFit Games, from semifinals, from the online qualifier parts of the season as a whole, and then kind of projected forward to next year based on what we learned this year.
Are those okay, I see one 2 days ago and one 6 days ago. Those are the ones you're referencing. They have a Catherine David's daughter, and then they have the champs.
Correct. Yeah, we don't get quite the engagement that you get, but we have only been doing it for a couple months and a couple shows.
Dude, you have more viewers than you do subscribers. That's all that matters.
That is cool, yeah.
That's crazy cool. Hey, between me and you.
Yeah, no one else is listening.
Just between me and you. It's at the end of the show. I know you said it's late. I'll only get you for a half hour. I'm already 2 minutes over. I know you're about to turn into a pumpkin.
I'm having fun.
Let's say that Roman Krenikov wouldn't have hurt his foot. And we go into the last 2 events, and the score's 803 to 801.
815 to 813.
All right, thank you. 815 to 813.
Or 805 to 803, something like that.
But we agree on one thing, 2 points.
I think you actually might have had it right.
Okay. Either way, 2 points.
2 men, 2 points, 2 events. I know, it was such a bummer.
Damn. Hey, who wins that? Those 2 events.
The problem is, I don't think that we saw what Jeff Adler was capable of on either of those tests.
I agree.
Because there was no need for him to do anything else than what he did. He knew the situation, and it was kind of like Fraser in 2017 for the Fibonacci finale. He could have beat Logan Collins' time from 2 heats prior, but he had no need. And Laura Horvath did the same thing in the last workout this year. She might have been able to beat Olivia Kersetter's time, sweep all the Sunday events for the first time since Rich Froning, and had these but she didn't need to. You saw her just looking around the Coliseum, taking her time before picking up the lunge. And I was watching Adler, quite closely during those workouts until I kind of realized that he was just doing enough to secure the win. And
do you know, though, when I interviewed him, Brian, he actually said he was trying hard, but he was just saying, I'm paraphrasing, but just the motivation wasn't there. So it wasn't that he was sandbagging him. It's just that he didn't feel any motivation. He didn't feel the pressure or motivation. He said it was very odd.
Yeah, it was super odd because you finish a workout in the morning. You've just taken over the lead. Maybe you don't even know that you've taken over the lead, but you've closed the gap. You know you're in it. You know that it's, after the whole season and 6 years of preparing for this, that it's coming down to you and one other guy. And he's a freaking beast. Like, he's an intimidating figure on and off the floor, And I mean, you saw it when Adler crossed the finish line. Like, he did not celebrate like a guy usually celebrates when they become the CrossFit Games champion.
Hey,
You know,
that could have been a great fucking movie. Like if someone has resources, let's say Roman's healthy. All you do is you do a 5-minute preview, and then the movie's called just what you named it. What'd you call it? 2 men, 2 points, 2 events.
mhm.
What? And you just drag that fucking thing out an hour and a half, 90 minutes. Wow, it could be a great doc.
You know,
But
I have at almost, I think at every competition I've ever done a rankings for that Jeff Adler's participated in, he's beaten my expectations every time. Sometimes it's by 1 spot, you know, because I'll pick him second and he takes first at a semifinal, or you know, I pick him 8th and he finishes 5th at the games, or last year, whatever it was. But so I'm really hesitant to say that I think Roman would have beat him on those last 2 tests or overcome the 2-point margin of victory, because he's just consistently getting better and consistently outperforming my projected expectation for him. I
is
don't
the
know.
conventional wisdom that Roman would have won? Like somehow those events were better for Roman?
I think the last one was probably better for him than Jeff. But the one before that, I'm not sure. You know, the fact that Brent did so well on it leads me to believe that Roman probably would have done well on it too. It's not so much that I think Roman could have notched a top 5 on both and maybe a top 3 finish on both. I'm not sure about Adler, because he was the one I was kind of waiting to see. Like before I found out, which was very fast, by the way, that I found out about Roman, in my mind I was like, how is Jeff going to react to having the leader jersey, knowing how close the margin is when it comes, and that workout it wasn't that difficult. I didn't like, for most athletes, it wasn't that difficult, but you had to be precise. If you miss one parallel or pirouette on the parallettes, if you just, get a little out of rhythm with your heavy jump rope, if you can't figure out the sled pull, if you saw what happened to a couple athletes who forgot to run the rope the right way, or whatever, there were just some kind of nuances there. And if you're feeling the pressure, feeling the moment, whatever, you can thrive in that environment, or you can maybe not. And I didn't think that Roman was really going to struggle with that, because he was kind of there last year. The biggest thing I noticed from Roman this year compared to last year was just like a sense of belonging, of confidence, that he's like and it's totally understandable. Last year when he shows up to the games, especially since he's from Russia and there's this general stigmatism towards Russia right now that a lot of people have. You don't know how you're going to be embraced, if people are going to boo you, if they're not going to cheer for you, how they're going to react. You might not know, no matter how confident you are in your fitness, how well you're going to perform against these guys, how well the body's going to hold up in the heat over the totality of the workout. None of that was an issue for him this year. I think he was coming in full of belief and confidence, and I think he would have performed well in the last 2 tests. Everything about Adler says he probably would have also, and it's just a bummer.
It is a bummer. What a great, it was a great buildup. Jan, happy birthday, buddy. Someone's in here said it was your birthday. Happy birthday. Hey, and thanks for all the support you've given me over, I don't know how long, dude. You've been an amazing supporter over there. I believe you're in the UK. And if you're not, sorry, fucked up. But I know you're somewhere in Europe, and thank you. Brian, any thoughts on the champ, on Mr. Medeiros? What happened? Jan Clark, thank you. Jan Clark Esquire. Thank you. Jan Clark. There you go. Yeah. Thank you. And don't put that whole mic in your mouth at once. Any thoughts about I will ask him about Ricky Mack. Good job, Auden. Good job. I'm gonna ask him about Ricky Mack. Hold on. God, we love Ricky Mack over here.
Wait. Who's Ricky Mack?
Yeah, formerly known as Ricky Garrard. Ricky Mack. It's his middle name, Ricky Mack. There's no, when your middle name's Mack, you drop the Garrett. Ricky Mack. Any thoughts on Medeiros, on the champ? Is there any reason? Is there any I'm just gonna say this, he came in there with a broken elbow, or is there any rumors, anything, any justification for why this guy who's just been the champ for 2 years in a row had some stumbles at semifinals and then at the games, relative to what our expectations are?
Sure. To be fair, no matter who you are, if you win 2 years in a row, unless like in a scenario that doesn't exist came upon us where there was like 10 guys that entered the field that we just knew were better than him, which I don't, that wasn't the case. I think I still picked him to win this year. And I wasn't super confident in that pick, but if you told me he wasn't going to finish in the top 5, I would have thought that you were as ridiculous as Jason Tyler Watkins' prediction for next year's top 5 finisher. Sorry.
And do you have any thought? And no, it's good. Always take a shot at someone. And do you have any thoughts on what happened? Coaching issue. Had him and Adam Knife were fighting. He was having his period. He got soft for training with Ellie. He was injured. Do you have any speculation or and if you do, is it something you're willing to share? I also understand if you have some and you're just not ready to share it. Maybe the programming.
I haven't talked to him. I haven't talked to Adam or Ellie. I did hang out with his parents one night, and in the RV park when I was over there after the Mayhem podcast, and they were kind of as confused as I was about what was going on. Or so it seemed. And I talked about this on the podcast that we did 6 days ago, and a few people have added some comments on there suggesting some different things about what might have been happening with him. I'm not sure if they got him from the interview or if, I don't know. There's a lot of content out there, and with the amount of with the reflection I've done on the games, the amount of preparation I've been doing for what I'm doing right now, it's been difficult to consume all of it. My instinct is telling me that, look, it's like there are people that have ups and downs at the CrossFit Games. They come in one year and do really well, and then the next year they don't. Really, look at Brent Fikowski last year. He was sixth, this year he was 4th. Like, it's a pretty dramatic difference. What happened to him last year? No one's entirely sure. The year before, he seemed to have like a pretty messed up leg, and he did a lot better than that. It'd be the same if you asked me about Jason Hopper. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that too. Any thoughts on Hopper? What about this? I just think Hopper's too big. I hate to say it. I think Hopper has to lose 10 pounds.
Maybe.
He's massive. He's massive, dude.
Yeah, and this is part of the problem is we don't know how big he is. We don't know if he's 10 pounds heavier than Roman or Yellow Host. They both did just fine. I think that in the case of Jason, if anything, it's more likely that he had 2 of the worst things that could have come up for him on the first day of competition, and he was just not able to recover from that mentally. That's the best.
Okay.
That's the best. And I'm referring to just that biking event was pretty demanding if you're not pretty skilled on a bike, and the pullovers were hard for him. You can just watch that event and see. And that's a very real thing in this sport, and we talk about it all the time, that the ability to recover when things don't go your way is what separates the greats from the goods in the sport. And he did really well last year and didn't do so well this year. I'm not writing him off. I didn't participate in Spin's top 25 because I wasn't ready to yet, but I would probably have Jason somewhere around 10th going into next year, which is, I think, pretty fair, despite the fact that he finished 31st at the games. Justin, I still would probably have six, maybe 6th, something like that going into next year. Like, I think they underperformed relative to their potential. But at the same time, like, there's no guarantee that there's that bounce back. We have seen in the past athletes that come and have some success and then taper off and kind of fall off the radar after 1 or 2 seasons.
I will say this too. Hopper did have his wits about him, and I never saw his spirit broken. Like when I would see him in the back or in the corrals, or he never. There are a lot of athletes who look like a beaten dog. Like they come off the floor looking like they've been doing meth for a week if they get a bad finish. They look distraught. I never really saw. Hopper seemed mentally strong to me relative to.
Well, that's great to hear, because like that day 1, if you didn't do well on test 3 at the nightcap, the inverted medley, that day 1 was pretty brutal in every regard. Like, there was no real escaping that bike ride. Even if you talk to guys like Dave or Don that just rode a lap or 2, Rich did a 30-minute, ride around there one day. It's like you had to pedal through the grass. It was hard. It was demanding, and the athletes did not have enough time to recover for what the next test was. And sometimes that's what happens at the games, and that's not a problem, but that's just a reality. And if you listen to or read about the recaps that athletes are putting out there about the paper, it seems like half of them cramped up on the wall balls or the last set of pig flips just because they didn't have enough time to come back from that. So if you put yourself in a situation where you're not great on the bike, you had a bottom half finish, you should do good on the next test, you start cramping in the wall balls, you're like, I know I can move it better than everyone out here, but I can't do it right now. And then you're also not good on your hands, and you suddenly just string together just a terrible day after you've been training and preparing for a year for this, and people have high expectations for you, and you have high expectations for yourself. Like, that's tough. And so if you saw him on the second day and he was still in good spirits, I would give him a lot of credit for that.
And anecdotally, I heard that too. I definitely, I feel like I heard more people say they cramped than said they didn't cramp. And the bike was very demanding, and I think people underestimated.
Dude, I mean, you had really talented. I think it was it Nick Matthew and Colton Mertens that were being like carted off of there after that pig event, and the second heat of men is like looking at them like, what the heck?
And
like,
how about Emma Lawson had to be carted off, even though she won the bike event? She had to be carted off the bike event.
Well, she made a bad decision on that workout. It's just
she won it, right?
Yeah, but she could have won it in a more strategic way.
What an impressive kid, right?
She's phenomenal. Yeah, it really is impressive. And, like we were talking about, she, just because she was 6th last year, there's no guarantee that she would do better than that this year. But she looked great. And you know what? There's definitely a skill. And I don't know that much about this because I'm not intimately involved in the coaching of elite athletes. But she looked like a lot better at the games than she did at semifinals. And I think for the best athletes in the sport, that's a good thing to understand how to do.
After Laura passed her and took the leader jersey from her, Emma went under the underground, and she sat up against the concrete wall underneath the bleachers, and she sat by herself, and she was crying, and Tia came and talked to her. And she was even composed in her crying. Even her her grief was different than other people's grief. It was managed grief. You know what I mean? There was nothing chaotic about it or belligerent. She was just having just a quick cry. Champ came over and, talked to her, brushed herself off, and got back to warming up. It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah,
I've had more at the behind the scenes.
I've had a few conversations with Emma over the last year or so. I talked to her after the games last year in the Coliseum, and I spoke to her once this year. And she is very impressive for a young woman. She comports herself extremely well.
Okay. Ricky Mack.
Ooh, you almost slipped up there.
I did, thank you. Does Ricky Mack, I mean, I'm going to tell you what I have him. I'm going to tell you what I did some research. Give me a second here. See if I can find I did a peer-revied study. Oh, here we go.
I'm happy that you had him on recently, by the way.
It was great. I got his WhatsApp now too. Like it used to be so hard to talk to him. I finally got his WhatsApp. I think I figured out. Okay, I got him a first on the first day, then a fourth, a third, then a first.
He would not have. No chance he would have beaten Cole Grieshaber on the inverted medley.
Then on the third day, I have a first, a second, and a 27th.
Do you write down the workouts?
No, but I can. Do you want me to, here? I'll tell you what they are as I do them real quick here. Just give you a quick.
He would have been second at worst on the bike event. Probably would have won it. It would have been interesting. That would have been. I didn't like that workout in general, and I have several reasons why. But it would have been extremely interesting to have him in that field and see how that would have affected the lead pack.
Mm-hmm.
Jona Koski is extremely good on a bike. But yeah, first or second for Ricky on that event is more than fair.
And then the second event is the pig chipper. I also have him winning that.
It's really difficult to say,
It is difficult to say, but he'd have kicked fucking ass at it if he showed up and did good.
Maybe.
Inverted medley. Okay, so you want to give him a second?
I'd give him top 10s on workouts 2 and 3 for sure.
Okay, and then alpaca. I gave him a first, winning that.
Who won it?
Good question. He may have won the alpaca last year. Did he? Roman won it.
But this was a very different workout this year from last year for a few different reasons. The primary reason is because that initial sled push was a lot harder this year. Remember last year that the turf was slick after the rain?
Yeah.
And you saw people just get buried by that sled. And when Adrian talked to us about this workout both years, he's like, that first sled push just puts you in a hole.
Oh, sorry. I had him fourth. Sorry, I had him fourth for the alpaca. Sorry.
That seems more reasonable. I would still say that he would have had, at worst, all top 10 finishes so far.
Okay, ski bag third.
This one I'm probably going to disagree with you on. What criteria are you using to place him third on that?
He's great. Well, I think he did it. That one maybe.
Yeah, well, that's
and we know he's not afraid of a bag. And he's got a good engine.
Yeah.
Then
look,
Helena, I got him third.
See, I think he might win that
one. So
Adler
Jeffrey Adler and Will Morad.
Yeah, and Adler was superhuman on that workout, and Morad had a great push from Yellow Hoste, but I think, top 3, fine.
Okay. Then the cross country 5K. I think maybe he laps Adler.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, okay. No one was beating Yellow Hoste on that, and Adler, I think, would have beaten Ricky on that. I'd say maybe 5th on that one.
Are you at the run?
Who was the top 5?
Do you remember what happened at the run in
You're talking about the Madison
Dubai.
triplet?
Dubai.
Oh, in Dubai. Oh, go back to his rookie year.
Ricky Garrard carried Roman up the snow hill and set him down and then still won.
I'll give him third on that one.
Oh, come on.
Maybe second. I don't think he was beating Hosta.
Okay. Intervals. I got him at second. I don't even remember that workout.
I don't think anyone was beating Pat Vellner on that. That was a tricky workout.
He said Pat Vellner was using his technique over the box.
Well, I don't know who did that technique first, but that's a well-known technique if you can do it. But it requires a certain amount of explosiveness and athleticism that both of those guys have.
Olympic total, he gave himself a 27th.
He gave.
Yeah, because he said his all-time best snatch is 293. He said he thinks he would have gotten a 245. He says all best clean and jerk is 359, and he would have got a 320 for a total of 565, which puts him at 27th.
I think he's sandbagging himself on that workout. I think he would do better than that.
Okay.
Remember, he was the guy that couldn't clean couldn't clean the 250-pound sandbag, and then ended up cleaning like 330 or something on the floor.
Right. Muscle up logs. He gave himself. I gave him a first. He says muscle ups are they're nothing to him.
Yeah, top 3 for sure. I would say top 3 at worst on that.
Parallel bar pull up. He gave himself a 6th.
That's fair.
And echo thruster final. He gave himself a 7th. After Jay Crouch, even.
Yeah, I would agree with the majority of those. That's in a vacuum. Things can happen at the games. You can look.
So you agree with me? Ricky Mack would have won the games this year if he was there. You agree with me?
I think he would have had as good a chance as anyone to win. But
good.
Look at what happened to Vepaka. If I thought that he screwed up when I watched that workout, I thought he saw Patrick Vellner.
Oh.
I thought he screwed it up. I thought he saw Brent with one rope climb to go, and he decided, I want to beat this guy, and climbed, and he wasn't ready, and he failed, and it just set him back 23 spots on the workout. He lost 55 points by that decision. That's what I thought. But if you read his recap on it, he says, I just slipped. I was coming down the rope. I was tired, but I was fine, and one of my hands slipped, and that's a no rep, and that's the worst no rep you could have possibly had at any point in the CrossFit Games, unless you got a 0 on the Olympic total. Was the last rope climb in that workout, and on top of that, you've seen his fingers. So there's always these weird circumstances that can happen at the games. Like in a vacuum, yeah, he should do great on the pig chipper, but am I 100% confident that he's going to recover well enough after going head to head with Yona Koski on the bike? Yona said he was usually good on the pig chipper too, and he was cramping in the middle of the wall balls. So there's always variables that you can't predict if you're not there. In a vacuum, Ricky looks like he would do great on these tests. Yes.
Is Jeffrey Adler 120 points better than Patrick Vellner?
No,
It's 953 and 837. I mean, did Adler just kick the shit out of Vellner? What's going on here?
Well, he's beat him in 3 or 4 straight live competitions, and Vellner is just continuously making these small mistakes. Now, sometimes they're calculated risks, sometimes they're kind of unfortunate things like we just talked about. And by calculated risk, I would say that Rogue is a good example of that. I mean, I wrote an article last year that explained that both Vellner and Adler theoretically could have won that competition. I think the margin between them is super small. It was when I was ranking the athletes coming into the games this year, I put Medeiros first because I had committed to doing that until someone beat him at the games. When you win twice in a row, I got to give you that respect unless I know that you're injured or sick or something like that. I thought Roman was going to be pretty tough to beat. I put him second, and it was super difficult for me to rank Vellner and Adler 3 and 4. I felt like it was kind of a wash. Adler's been out executing him at competitions for 2 years running now.
Dude, this is crazy. Look, Justin Medeiros took 13th, and then almost 73 points below him is Will Morad in 14th. So Justin kind of is like the gatekeeper for a tier, right? He's at the bottom of tier 3.
2, no,
or 4.
Well, are you putting Adler in his own tier?
I kind of have to, dude. I kind of have to.
You can put Roman. We can put Roman in that tier. I mean, it's a different circumstance than points than the reality of the situation.
Okay, so Jeff and Roman, and then Patrick through.
I know. I would say Pat was kind of,
I'd put in another tier, maybe.
I don't know. I see 50-something points between Vellner and Fikowski, and then I see that many points for the next. Like, there's only 100 points between 4th place and Medeiros, 110 points. So I don't know.
Man, but Medeiros is at the very bottom of whatever tier that is, tier 2 or 3, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and you might say there's a drop off after BKG. I think BKG would have taken somewhere between 3rd and 5th at the games this year healthy.
Oh, what was wrong with him?
He was really messed up. He's lucky he was even able to compete. I don't remember if he said it was his hip or his back, but one was affecting the other, and it was known before the game started. And
hence
his
the
fitness
snatch
level,
the snatch and the clean and jerk were 95 pounds each or something. Is that what
there was something? Yeah, he's written about this or talked about it somewhere. I think he might have wrote about it, or maybe Snorri wrote about it in his recap of his athletes or something like that. But something happened earlier that day that made his back pretty uncomfortable, and the rules were that you didn't have to attempt a snatch or a clean and jerk in every window. So he just basically cleared with the competition team that he could do what he did, accepted the 0 and moved on. So he's taking a 0 on a lifting test. You could probably project him for somewhere between 60 and 80 points on that test healthy, and he was only 71 points out of 4th place with only doing 11 of the 12 tests. It's the same as Emma Carey. Emma Carey, because of nothing that had to do with fitness, took a 0 on test 1 and still finished 8th, and the margin between 8th and I think 4th was pretty tight on the women's side. Like, I would say she was one of the top 5 fittest women at the games this year, but she ends up 8th because of something that she had no control over.
Yeah, damn. I had one final question for you.
Okay, that's perfect.
It was about the boys.
Your kids? They're impressive.
Not those boys.
Oh, JR and Taylor?
The Ricky Mac boys. I can't remember it. Oh, yep, here it is. Sorry, it's Johnny's question. I'm looking over here like thinking I'm going to remember it, and here it is. How did someone get to Rogue this year? What do you need to qualify for Rogue? Is it invite? It's called the Rogue Invitational. How do people get there? And is who gets invited?
What place did Colton finish?
I think 18th.
Are you sure about that, or is that what you think? I'm sorry, I can't remember.
That's what I think. 18th.
I don't think that'll do it. I think that I don't know why I saw somewhere, and I don't know if it was Rogue or someone else that was said something like only 5 or something about the Rogue qualifier. Um, my I don't know if they've announced it for sure, but my instincts are telling me that it's 15 and 5 again.
5 get to compete for in some
15, the
online
top 15 from the
qualifier,
games,
and then
the top
5.
15 from the games, and the top 5 from the queue.
Okay, and if someone from the games doesn't accept, does that open up a 6th, 7th, 8th, or do they go down the list and invite those people automatically? Do you get what I'm saying?
This happened last year, and I think they went down the list at the games.
Okay, so I doubt Roman's going.
You're probably irresponsible. But I don't know, man. These athletes are crazy.
And I doubt Bjorgvin Gudmundsson's going to go. And then one more we don't know. So that's 3. Yeah, so then you get Noah, Spencer, and Colton get invited. Ah, yeah. Yep, he's getting an invite. You heard it here
It
first.
would be great. I mean, honestly, it would be great if he did get an invite. He's qualified via the qualifier multiple years for that competition. He does okay there. He usually is good for, a top 3 finish, maybe also an event win. And he's, I think I said this in the group that we're, the group chat that we have before the games. I said, no matter what happens to Colton at the games in terms of his overall placing, that guy could not be doing more with what he's given. Like his fitness and his accomplishments are insanely impressive. I'm grateful I got a chance to tell him that in person this year. He is like, there's a reason why he has as many fans as he has. He is a truly inspiring competitor.
And I want to say he's great on the podcast. Last 2 times I've had him on, he's fucking killed it.
Well, that's cool because he was when you first started having him on, he wasn't as he wasn't as comfortable or confident or didn't express himself as clearly, and I think that's pretty standard.
Yeah.
You need to get some. It's interesting today. We did a few interviews with athletes here, and people that speak freely and are fun and personable. Then you put a camera in their face, and it's like they just get nervous.
Yeah.
And that just comes with experience. I think in the sport of CrossFit, a lot of international athletes often run into that problem, and then they're motivated to become more confident with their English because that's kind of the limiter. But there can just be, timid, shy personalities. I think that's kind of Colton's nature. But when he just opens up a little bit, it's even that much more endearing. So I think everything about Colton Mertens this year is amazing to me. I called Travis after semifinals and see if we could get that shirt going for him. And Travis was of course able to do that again, which was cool. So the support for Colton is great, and it's well deserved.
Brian, thank you.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Brian will be coming on the show from each remote location.
That's a promise I haven't made to you.
No, I mean I never even asked you until now. He will be coming to you live from Utah, the Pit Teen, the Spain, Sweden, Power Monkey Camp, and the Masters Fitness Collective. It's way past Brian's bedtime. It's midnight there. He said he could only come on for half an hour, and he stayed for an hour and 5. Thank you.
I know the rules here.
All right. Bye-bye.